Today, I'd like to share an intriguing study simply titled The Evolution of Same-Sex Sexual Behavior in Mammals. Same-sex sexual behavior has long attracted the attention of scientists across many fields, and it turns out to be extremely common. It has been reported in over 1,500 species, encompassing all major invertebrate groups: insects, spiders, velvet worms, nematodes, as well as vertebrates, fish, amphibians, reptiles, birds, and mammals. Notably, same-sex sexual behavior is especially widespread among non-human primates from lemurs to apes. It has been observed in at least 51 species, and it occurs regardless of sex or whether animals are wild or captive. It is also common in human societies, documented throughout most of our history and across many cultures. But what exactly counts as same-sex sexual behavior? Literally, it is any attempted sexual behavior between same-sex members, yet that definition is too broad to be useful. The authors therefore define same-sex sexual behavior more operationally as any brief copulatory or courtship interaction between same-sex individuals, that is, behaviors that normally occur during stages of heterosexual reproduction: courtship, mounting, copulation, pair bonding, or alloparental care. When they take place between same-sex partners, crucially, same-sex sexual behavior is not equivalent to sexual orientation and does not imply any self-identified preference. From sociology and psychology to behavioral and evolutionary biology, same-sex sexual behavior poses a puzzle. A 2021 study showed that same-sex sexual behavior carries costs similar to heterosexual sex energy expenditure: time, risk of disease transmission, potential injury yet yields no offspring, thus incurring a high opportunity cost and creating what has been called Darwin's paradox. If it seems so disadvantageous from a reproductive standpoint, why is it so prevalent in humans and other animals? Non-adaptive explanations have included misidentification of partner, 2 wildcat studies in 2000 and 2006, limited availability of opposite sex mates, 3 studies, and sexual frustration, coping after rejection, 2 studies. But it seems implausible that more than 1,500 species would all share the same non-adaptive error. A 2019 wild ancestor hypothesis proposed that an ancestral sexually reproducing animal engaged indiscriminately in both opposite and same-sex behavior, and some descendants simply retain that pattern. Although logically coherent, it is essentially untestable in fossils. Attention has therefore turned to adaptive hypotheses, which posit that same-sex sexual behavior originated, evolved, and persists because it provides benefits. First, social bonding, helping to form and maintain alliances and to reconcile conflicts, which predicts that group-living species should show more same-sex sexual behavior than solitary ones. Second, conflict reduction, conveying status, reinforcing dominance hierarchies, diffusing aggression into sexual behavior, and perhaps granting lower-ranking males covert mating opportunities, which predicts that species with aggressive or lethal same-sex competition should exhibit more same-sex sexual behavior than more peaceful species. Empirical support for these ideas includes reconciliation through same-sex sexual behavior in female bonobos and Japanese macaques, alliance strengthening among male bottlenose dolphins, and dominance reinforcement in American bison. In the current study, the authors used phylogenetic comparative methods across mammals and found that same-sex sexual behavior is recorded in about 5% of species and 50% of family higher than in birds or insects, and appears in over 80% of 22 long-term field-studied species. Ancestral state reconstructions indicate that same-sex sexual behavior is not an ancestral trait for vertebrates, but instead evolved independently multiple times, refuting the wild ancestor idea. Moreover, its non-random distribution, especially high prevalence in primata, supports the social bonding hypothesis, and the correlation of male same-sex sexual behavior with measures of lethal same-sex competition supports the conflict reduction hypothesis. Humans, too, share same-sex sexual behavior with social male-aggressive ancestors. Our last common hominin ancestor appears to have lived in social groups with lethal male competition, conditions favoring same-sex sexual behavior's evolution. Taken together, mammalian lineages have repeatedly evolved sociality and faced same-sex competition, leading individuals to adopt behavioral strategies, among them same-sex sexual behavior, to strengthen social bonds and mitigate harmful conflict. Because those individuals also reproduce heterosexually, Genes underlying same-sex sexual behavior persist as part of a broader social behavioral syndrome. Thus, same-sex sexual behavior in mammals is neither a Darwinian paradox nor a maladaptive anomaly, but rather a convergent, adaptive strategy for maintaining social cohesion and reducing intersexual conflict.